What if Revan awakened in the Clone Wars and trained Maul? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Darth Maul sits shackled to the wall, his body battered and cut up, his face sunken by weeks of torment. His only reprieve is that the droids in charge of his suffering have left to gather new work tools. Maul uses the opportunity well. He takes a few deep breaths to try and manage the pain and to let the anger flow through him and strengthen him. The fire churns in his stomach and glows brightly despite the Separatists' attempt to break him. Outside his cell is the distant hum of machinery and the metallic clank of droids patrolling the halls. However, this shatters with the sharp crack of blaster fire. Robotic voices cry out amidst the blaster fire, reporting an intruder and calling for backup before the sound of exploding machinery now fills the air. Maul lifts his head, yellow eyes gleaming faintly in the dim light as a single sound remains: metallic feet on the ground. The door opens and a droid appears, brandishing a blaster, but this is one he does not recognize.
Statement. Terminating hostiles. Efficiency levels are satisfactory. Addendum. I do so enjoy the sound of screaming inferior droids, almost as much as I love the screams of meatbags.
He glances over to Maul, shackled to the wall, and tilts his head.
Query. Are you the unfortunate organic referred to as Darth Maul?
Who sent you?
Statement. My master, naturally. Though, after seeing you in this pathetic state, I question his judgment. Observation. You appear inferior. However, his orders were quite clear.
He fires at the chains on the wall, and Maul drops to his feet. Pushing himself upright, Maul sees the droid hand him his saber staff.
Advisory. You will refrain from dying before I deliver you. My master would find that irritating. This weapon should prevent that. Now, can you walk?
Yes, I can walk.
Observation. Admirable. Stubbornness often compensates for weakness among organics.
By the time they escape, several droids are already rushing to reinforce their fallen comrades, firing blaster rounds at them. HK-47 gladly returns fire, cutting through the weaker battle droids while Maul deflects their attacks. Even weakened, he manages to use the Force to shove those droids aside and allow the two to hurry to the docking bay. Despite being only a single droid, HK-47 proves an excellent rescuer, having come packed with explosives, EMP rounds, and an assortment of blasters, allowing them to deal with different types of droids. They reach the docking bay where a sleek starship awaits. HK-47 gestures toward the ramp.
Statement. Welcome aboard. Try not to bleed on the floors. My master has a penchant for cleanliness.
Maul ascends the ramp and slumps on the passenger seat. HK-47 follows just as the ramp closes behind them and the ship takes off. Once they are safely out of range from the droid defenses, a figure appears from the cockpit. He gestures for his droid to take over as he sits in front of Maul. The figure's presence is undeniable, radiating power and calm that makes even Palpatine's energy seem small. Maul finds himself shrinking back and looming at him cautiously. He pulls his hood down, revealing a set of blood-red Mandalorian armor. At first, Maul thinks that this is one of his warriors, but the armor seems different, and his presence is too imposing.
Who are you? I am Revan, and I've been waiting for you.
The name sends a shiver down Maul's spine. He has heard of Revan from Jedi, Sith, and Mandalorian alike, and while some see him as a hero and others a traitor, one thing they all agree on is he has power beyond any living Force user.
What do you want from me? Well, it seems we find ourselves in similar positions. Both of us are without allies, and as I have just recently awoken and wish to learn more about the state of the galaxy, I thought it was ideal to speak to you. I can feel the darkness in the galaxy. It grows stronger every day. Some of it is clinging to you. It's not your own. Not all of it, at least.
My master.
And answer me this one thing. Is your master responsible for all of this?
He is.
All right then. It seems like he is my enemy then. I left this galaxy in peace, and I am not about to let it fall into darkness again. However, as I said, I need allies. Perhaps you could be useful. Together, we can destroy your master, and the empire he seeks to build.
Maul glares at him, uncertain how to take in all this. A part of him can hardly believe what he's hearing, but there's a glimmer of hope as Revan holds out his hand. After a long moment, he takes it, and Revan helps him to his feet. Revan quickly gets up to speed on the situation within the galaxy. Thankfully, Maul proves himself useful here as he knows Palpatine's plans. He explains everything to Revan about how the Chancellor wishes to start this war to sow discord within the galaxy and accumulate power as the Chancellor of the Republic. Everything from the Naboo Crisis to the Separatists and the Clone Wars were all caused by Palpatine to put fear in people's hearts. However, Maul's knowledge is incomplete as he only knows about the general idea. But after his defeat on Naboo, Palpatine wasted no time in replacing him. He has no idea about the finer details, like the clone army or his different machinations. To deal with that, Revan has HK-47 handle intelligence gathering. He has help from Maul's criminal networks as they gather information about the recent happenings in the Senate, as well as the battlefield. Meanwhile, Maul and Revan begin training in the Force. While he is impressed by the Sith apprentice's agility and strength, he questions his motivation and drive. This proves true as Revan trounces Maul in all their matches. He soon finds the reason and confronts him after one lesson.
You say that you no longer tie yourself to Palpatine, and yet you still follow the path he set for you. You still rely on anger and let the dark side consume you.
Maul lunges, his pride demanding action, his lightsaber whirling at blinding speed. Revan doesn't flinch. With a simple gesture, he halts Maul mid-strike, the Force pinning him in place.
My anger is what allowed me to live.
Live. Aye, but not thrive. Look at you. What do you have to show for that anger?
He releases Maul, who drops to the ground, gasping. But then he springs forward again, leaping over a slash by Revan and tries to kick him, though the Jedi catches it.
That is the way of the dark side.
It is, and I've seen how that goes, how it fails. A dozen Sith empires have risen and fallen on those same principles. An empire cannot be built on anger and power alone. It cannot feed or protect its people, no more than the Jedi's dogmas.
He flips over Maul, who catches himself and tries to punch Revan. The former Sith catches his fist and holds it in place. Then slowly, he begins to push it down.
A dozen empires, including your own.
He expects Revan to get angry, to unleash his powers once again. But instead, Revan chuckles.
Indeed. But isn't that the job of a master? To prevent his student from repeating his mistakes?
To Maul's surprise, Revan lets go of his fist and helps him up. However, their training is cut short as HK-47 soon returns with some recent findings. Of all the gaps in Maul's knowledge, the biggest one has to be the clone army, as that was organized without his knowledge, so he doesn't fully understand their role. As a result, HK-47's job is to find whatever information he can about them. He comes back with an unusual report that claims one of the clones executed a Jedi officer during a recent battle. There was no clear reason to this claim, and even after accessing the memory banks of some of the battle droids, it doesn't clear anything up. The clone looks as if he is in a trance. Revan decides to look into the matter further, and HK-47 is sent to find the clone who caused the friendly fire incident, while Revan and Maul visit the Legion of the Jedi. On Kamino, HK-47 slips through the pale halls of Tipoca City. His movements near silent as he scans the corridors for any wandering eyes before accessing a control terminal and searching for any information about the ships from Ringo Vinda. Unfortunately, the report he receives is unsatisfactory, as the clone trooper in question, Tup, has passed away, with the cause of the incident being ruled as combat stress. The droid immediately knows that this is a lie and begins efforts for more information. He has no moral investment in the mission. He simply finds the chaos it promises deliciously entertaining. He soon finds the information he needs, a report that one of the clones who accompanied Tup remains in the city, and sets off to find him. Fortunately, security reports seem to suggest this clone, CT-5555, known as Fives, has been posing a security risk, and the guards are on high alert for him. HK-47 raises his blaster eagerly, the promise of combat enticing the droid who hurries down the halls. He finds the clone accessing the city's databanks.
Sarcastic query. Do you have authorization to access this information?
Fives turns and raises his blaster, just as HK-47 raises his.
That information is inside my head. I have every right to access it.
Earnest agreement. On that I have no qualms. Statement. Just as I have access to it, as I am the one with the blaster to your head. However, I am not here to destroy you. I am here to help you, per my master's request.
Why would your master care about me?
Exposition. My master has an inexplicable interest in the Jedi and their clone army. He believes you possess critical information about let us say, galactic conspiracy. I find organic dramas tedious, but orders are orders. Now, shall we proceed? If not, I am happy to leave you here for the guards to find.
To prove his point, the droid begins walking away until Fives calls him back. By now, Kamino is on high alert, and any help he can find is going to be useful. He holsters his blaster, places the chip into a pouch, and hurries after him. With this information and Fives, HK-47 returns to Revan, who is surprised to see the clone with them. As promised, Revan listens to everything Fives says. His account is far more comprehensive, and he explains how Tup seemed almost programmed to do it, and discovered that there was a tumor in his inhibitor chip, which might have caused it to activate prematurely. The inhibitor chip catches Revan off guard, as in what little information he found about the clones, there was no mention of them. He allows Fives and HK-47 to study it, as he continues his training with Maul. It doesn't take long for them to break through the security codes and reveal everything. They find the secret commands that have been implanted in all clones' heads, orders that they have never heard about, but grow more horrific as they read through them. The most prominent of them is a command to execute all Jedi generals in the event of a coup. Something clicks into Revan's mind as he realizes this is the key to Palpatine's plan. Maul seems to understand this as his face grows more grim. Fives immediately requests that his chip be removed, something Revan agrees to. But as the full realization sinks in, they realize how desperate of a situation this is. Palpatine is now in a perfect position to wipe out all the Jedi. It is now simply a matter of time, and they find themselves short on that. HK-47 continues to analyze the data. Revan and Maul train and meditate, trying to piece together the rest of Palpatine's plans. To do so, Revan urges them to meditate, closing their eyes and trying to use the Force to catch glimpses of the future. This is also part of Maul's training, as he urges him to let go of his anger, at least momentarily, to access the Force and sense his foes. It is long and difficult for Maul, but he agrees and takes a deep breath, although anger continues to bubble inside him and he thinks of Palpatine. He forces it down for now and takes a deep breath. With a few more, his vision begins to clear, and Maul sees his master throughout the war. He sees him with another figure, a young Jedi, Kenobi's Padawan. He watches as images shift and time changes, but Palpatine remains talking to him. Maul can see the manipulations in those words, slowly making Anakin question himself in the Jedi Order and promising him power beyond the Jedi's understanding. These are many of the same things he promised Maul when he was his apprentice. Maul's eyes shoot open and he stumbles to the ground. Revan studies him.
What did you see?
The one who is the key to Palpatine's plan. We must lure him out.
Meanwhile, on Ringo Vinda, the campaign continues without Anakin, leaving General Tipley and her clones to finish the battle. Unfortunately, things are not going well. The droids have proven to be incredibly tenacious, and now that they have dug in, pushing them back seems impossible. The clones now seriously consider a retreat. But as they prepare to depart, a report comes in of an advancing figure. At first, they think it's more CIS forces, but this figure is coming from a section not controlled by the droids. More importantly, he is alone and makes no secret of his approach. Suddenly, the door slides open, and Revan steps into the facility, his presence immediately drawing the attention of the clones. His hood is drawn low, but the aura of power he exudes is unmistakable. Maul lingers in the shadows, his sharp eyes scanning the camp for weaknesses. Tipley approaches, her lightsaber hilt in hand.
Who are you? And what business do you have here?
I am Revan. I've come to warn you.
Warn us? About what?
Of your sister's fate. Do you think your sister will be the only victim? No, there is something bigger happening here. That clone did not act on his own. He was being controlled. There is a darkness woven into their creation. They might seem loyal, but they will turn on you.
And how do you know all this?
He told me.
He gestures towards Fives, who joins their group. A few of the clones are surprised to see him, but the ARC trooper holds out an inhibitor chip and begins to pass around the datapad containing its information. The Jedi and her troops' expressions change, going from confusion to shock in a matter of seconds. By the time they finish reading, her hand is shaking as the full realization of her sister's death hits her.
But that doesn't make any sense. Who would do this?
A Sith who seeks to destroy the Jedi. If we are to stop it, I require your assistance.
Tipley and her troops listen, many pledging themselves to help Revan as he begins giving instructions. Instead of retreating, they must instead continue their battle a short while longer, but send 2 reports. One is to insist on reinforcements from the 501st, and the other is reporting that they captured Fives and are sending him back to Coruscant. But as they prepare to depart, Revan pulls Maul aside and tells him he is to remain there and keep Anakin contained. One thing he stresses, though, is that they must avoid killing him at all costs. Revan doesn't want to bring the wrath of the Jedi Order on them. Maul protests this, but Revan is insistent as he departs. Fives sits in the corner of the transport shuttle, his wrists bound and his expression grim. The clones around him are members of Commander Doom's squad. No one says a thing as they focus on the task ahead. Their expressions are grim as they consider what they are about to do. A dozen questions ring out in their heads, but one thing is clear. They cannot let this event repeat itself. They land in the Senate district, where the towering Senate building looms in the distance. As the doors open, Commander Doom leads Fives out himself, nodding his head encouragingly. He already received word from Palpatine that he wants to speak to Fives personally, which makes it more important that he never reaches the office. Still, Doom sends a message and says that he is on his way. In the grand rotunda of the Chancellor's office, Palpatine stands waiting, his expression concerned, but his arms are spread out. However, when the doors open, it isn't Fives or Commander Doom, but Revan who steps out. His expression changes, immediately turning to surprise. "Who are you?"
The one who knows the truth. Today you are here to answer for your crimes.
Palpatine's hands twitch, and with a sudden motion, lightning arcs towards Revan. But the ancient Jedi turned Sith deflects it effortlessly. He raises his hand and redirects it towards the window, which erupts in an explosion. A second later, both of them have their lightsabers out and rush to close the distance. Revan opens up with a downward slash, sidestepping another lightning attack. Meanwhile, Palpatine pivots and brings his lightsaber up to push the weapon aside. He stabs it forward, grazing Revan's armor. Rather than block it, the Jedi is moving and twists to swing at him, forcing Palpatine to leap back. He doesn't let him recover, though, as Revan continues to advance, his lightsaber raining down attacks on him. Palpatine's movements remain agile with age, and he parries each attack. As Revan's attacks begin to slow, he shoves him back and then raises his hands. The shattered glass behind them rushes towards them, but while Revan's armor protects him, Palpatine must leap back, though some shards manage to cut his arm. Smirking, Revan rushes forward to finish him off, but as he draws closer, one of the cabinets suddenly flies forward and knocks Revan off balance. Palpatine is ready, and his lightsaber swings, slashing against his thigh. This drops the ancient Jedi Master to the ground, and Palpatine leaps at the opportunity. He leaps up and drives his lightsaber down. At the last second, Revan's legs twist to avoid the attack, and then kicks his arm aside. As Palpatine recovers, Revan grabs his arm and holds it up, pushing it aside, and then rams into him. The Chancellor slams into the wall and groans, and Revan follows with his fist slamming into his stomach. He nearly doubles over and barely dodges Revan's slash. Palpatine throws himself onto the ground and stumbles, but it only buys him a moment as Revan is on him immediately and holds his lightsaber against his throat.
Do this and you shall be condemned a traitor.
I'm not too worried about that.
His comlink crackles to life as Commander Doom's voice crackles through. He isn't talking to Revan, but to the Senate, as he relays everything that happened with the incident on Ringo Vinda, including the information about the inhibitor chips. Palpatine lives long enough for realization to dawn on him, just as Revan slices him across the neck and ends his life. Back on Ringo Vinda, Maul watches from his isolated command center as the chaos advances on the droid facility. He soon receives word that the reinforcements are arriving. Maul takes a deep breath and prepares himself for the coming battle. Beside him, HK-47 surveys the battlefield with detached interest.
This is a waste of time. Revan underestimates Skywalker. He should be eliminated, not contained.
Observation. My master's orders were clear, meatbag. You are to delay, not destroy. I find your bloodlust amusing, but it is not the mission.
Before Maul can retort, the doors open. From their side of the ring, troops from the 501st arrive, their blue-marked armor glinting in the sunlight. Anakin Skywalker steps out, his determined gaze sweeping the terrain. But as they finish rushing out, his eyes widen as he sees the distinctive orange markings. Beside them is Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he does not remain there for long as they are pulled back to the command center by Tipley. Maul feels a surge of anger at this sight. His fingers twitch towards his lightsaber. Although they were just to keep Anakin occupied, with combat if necessary, this was an opportunity too good to pass up. Maul ignites his crimson saber staff and strides toward the command center. Before HK-47 can react, he is already running off. The two Jedi turn to face him, and their eyes widen.
Don't think I've forgotten you, Kenobi.
Maul, what are you doing here? Instead of an answer, Maul responds with a snarl, rushing at them with his lightsaber twirling before them. Both Jedi raise their lightsabers to block his attacks. Behind him, HK-47 joins in, firing his sonic blaster at them. Both Jedi break off to block their attacks, just as Maul throws them back. He focuses on Kenobi, unleashing a set of sweeping strikes at his feet that force Obi-Wan to leap back and forth to avoid his attacks. Meanwhile, HK-47 focuses on Anakin, firing sonic rounds at him before rolling an EMP grenade at his feet. Anakin leaps aside just as the droid slams the butt of his rifle against him. The droid then draws a second gun and aims it at him.
Suggestion. Perhaps it is best to get that head injury checked out by surrendering.
What are you, a medical droid? He sweeps his lightsaber upward and forces HK-47 to move to avoid being cut as he rushes forward. Meanwhile, as the duel rages, Maul's anger begins to consume him. Seeing Kenobi here is too much. He roars and duels with Kenobi, whose patient strikes check each blow he slashes at him. Cursing, Maul twirls his saber staff in another cut before whirling around and trying to stab at him. Obi-Wan leaps back from this attack and slashes down at him, narrowly missing his fingers.
You're getting careless, Maul.
He sees an opportunity and begins to press the attack. Though Maul's weapon continues to win, he remains unsteady, and each strike sends him stumbling back. Obi-Wan advances against him. Every blow that connects with his weapon sends a surge of anger flashing across Maul's body. Before realizing it, he reaches and grabs Obi-Wan by the throat and begins to choke him. He holds his saber staff against him.
Do it. Only cowards choose the dark side.
Maul roars in fury, his saber staff inching closer, but HK-47's voice cuts through the chaos.
Statement. Control yourself, meatbag. My master's orders were clear. No killing. Do try to follow them before you get us both disassembled. You for a second time.
Maul hesitates, his rage faltering. Anakin seizes the opportunity and rushes forward, but HK-47 fires a well-placed explosive at the ground between them, forcing the Jedi to retreat momentarily. Maul feels the anger rushing back through him, calling for vengeance, for blood for what he's lost. Mother Talzin, his brother, his legs. As he holds Obi-Wan by the throat, they all scream at him to unleash it.
I will have my vengeance.
Query. And what will that accomplish?
Maul snarls in response, but his mind races as he tries to think of a retort. The answer comes harder than he imagines, and he struggles to think of anything. His hand twitches as he wavers. When he looks at Obi-Wan, he finds himself looking into Talzin and Savage when they perished. resolute, even in the end. Slowly, his grip loosens, and Maul looks down at his lightsaber.
Delaying does not mean death.
Response. Normally, I would disagree, but in this case, it does not.
What? Delay us from what?
Back on Coruscant, the Senate chamber erupts into chaos as Commander Doom bursts in, the data in hand. The evidence of the inhibitor chips and their true purpose begin to spread across the galaxy in seconds, including Ringo Vinda, where it plays across all the clones' communicators. Maul spares them one nasty smile, and an almost pitying look as their eyes widen. The full weight of how close they were to being destroyed hits them.
Delay you for that.
He deactivates his weapon and walks away. When news of this spreads, the Republic is in chaos, as some senators call for a full review of the military. The Jedi are especially furious, seeing how close they were to destruction is like a splash of cold water for them. For the first time, they seriously consider the words of some younger Jedi like Ahsoka and Barriss, who have warned of this for so long. They begin to seriously make efforts to return back to their peacekeeper roots as a result, leaving the military in the hands of the clones, who have their inhibitor chips deactivated. One area they must come to terms with is the faith of Maul and Revan. While they initially wish to arrest Maul, Revan bargains for his life and offers to surrender his criminal underworld, though Mandalore will remain under their control. They sign a treaty of non-aggression, promising to remain out of the war. While reluctant to let Maul escape, Revan leverages their involvement in this whole situation and reminds them that the Jedi have long looked the other way for criminals in the past.
That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.